Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miyosha. And today we're doing another Am I the A-hole reaction video. So if you like this type of video, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you comment down below to let us know what you think about these scenarios.
All right, let's get into the first one. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my mother or father-in-law look after my daughter anymore? I, 32-year-old female, have a daughter, 6 months with my husband, 34-year-old male. My husband is from a culture where it's not uncommon to pierce baby girls' ears. His mother started pestering me about getting my daughter's ears pierced from a few days after she was born. I made it clear that I would not be doing that. I'd be waiting until she's old enough to ask for it herself. I don't think it's relevant, but we live in a country where piercing babies' ears isn't common at all. It's not illegal, but it's certainly not common. My mother-in-law was looking after her at the weekend and decided to pierce them without my knowledge or consent. When I saw this, I about threw a fit. She was crying in pain and actually took her to the doctor to get their advice on whether or not to take them out. Our family doctor removed them as they were clearly bothering her. I decided at that moment that my mother-in-law and everyone else on that side of the family, except for my sister-in-law, who's on my side about this, is going to have no alone contact with my daughter ever again, or at least until she's a teenager. My worry is that she'll do the same thing again, and to be frank, she lost my trust entirely. I also told her that if she had a problem with that, I'd report what she did to the police. My husband is on my side, but he doesn't think it's as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be. Am I the a-hole?
Oh, wow. Okay. I had a few questions throughout this whole thing, but long story short, I do not think she's the a-hole. I think people have boundaries, and that is a really big boundary. Now, I guess I come from a culture. So she said her husband comes from a culture where it's normal. So I guess maybe I come from a culture where that's normal too, because I didn't necessarily think anything of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember growing up, we had some cousins whose parents decided not to for other reasons, but they decided not to, and they were kind of the oddballs. So I I think the mother-in-law definitely crossed every line possible. If a parent says, "This is how I want to raise my child," that's how you have to. You can't be like, "Oh, well, I'm going to make up my own rules and go with them." If they're vegetarian, you can't say, "Oh, I'm going to feed the kids hot dogs when they come to my house." Like you have to get in line with what the parents have decided for their child.
And this is such a big boundary to cross, like something physically on your child. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to downplay, like, oh, if you give them a certain food, that it's not a big deal, because that could be a huge deal.
Yeah.
But to physically do something to someone's child and then expect that they're not going to react, I think is the ultimate, just like smack in the face. It's very disrespectful.
Mhm. And did you think she wasn't gonna notice? Like, I wonder how she thought that was gonna play out. Like,
I think she probably thought, "Oh, they're already peers. She's been through the pain. Let's leave it in." That's what I think she thought.
I'm surprised the doctor took it out because usually they tell you like, but I guess she doesn't care about the whole closing up, so maybe that was fine.
Yeah, she said we were perfectly willing to wait until she was a teenager to decide, like, hey, if is this something that you want to do? I would also say too, I think you and your husband need to get on the same page about this because oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask if you think it's dramatic for like them to say you're never going to have alone time with the kids, but I don't know. I'm asking you as a parent.
I think that that is a very big stance to take.
Hmm.
And I think you and your husband need to be on the same page about if that's a reaction that both of you feel comfortable with. Because I could see that being a rift where you're like, oh, I absolutely don't trust anyone in this family to be alone with her.
Right.
That's a big stance to take versus he may feel like, oh, well, that's still family. It's odd that a grandchild wouldn't be like able to be alone with, their other cousins and family members. So I don't think she's overreacting given the age of the child.
Mm,
I mean, was she 6 months?
yeah.
So I think in the short term, it may make sense of, hey, you've kind of lost a bit of privilege.
Hmm.
I think until she's a teenager, what we'll say that's 13 years. I mean, you're sending a clear message and they get the point. So,
Yeah, definitely not
mm.
until the baby can talk. Like, because if this is the type of stuff you're about to be doing, I understand why she feels like, okay, I can't trust you guys. And they're gonna have to really try hard to gain that trust back before I could see anybody being comfortable with them being with the child alone. It's not like she's saying, oh, I can't, like the child can't see them. It's just I
Mhm.
have to be there with them because these are people who I don't trust. And if it were something else that they did and they showed that they weren't trustworthy adults, I think we would be on board with, okay, I need to be around to see what's happening with my child when you're in the same room. So I get it. I think it is a lot to say right now, oh, until XYZ. Now, if she brings this to their attention, well, does she even need to? But if she has a conversation and they're like, well, I don't see a big deal. Well, they're not even showing any type of remorse. So that is definitely something they're going to do again.
And that's what I want to know from the original poster. What was their reaction? It sounds like they said, except for my sister-in-law who's on my side about this. So
Yeah.
it sounds like the rest of the family didn't see much fault with what the mother-in-law and father-in-law did,
Mhm.
but were they remorseful? Where they're like, oh, okay, we get it, or were they like, oh, this is what we do in our culture and that's it? Well, then I don't think your reaction is too much. And ultimately, as a parent, you have to do what you feel is best for your child. And if you're already feeling like they're not going to respect your wishes with your child, then do what you have to do.
Do you have anything like this where you're like, oh, if you do that, you've crossed the line? Because as you were reading, I could clearly think about mine.
Mm, So, not anything that I've proactively thought about before this moment, but I've seen these videos of like kids getting their hair cut for the first time in certain cultures, and that's like a big thing where the mom could come home and the grandparents have already done some type of like cultural ritual that's normal and the mom maybe wasn't ready. So yeah, something like that, you cutting my child's hair and I'm like, no, I
Mm,
already told you no. Or maybe you even letting them watch or consume certain things where I've told you no.
off
You
limits.
see like sometimes maybe aunties or grandparents may feel like, oh, it's not a big deal. We watched whatever. And it's like, it seems small, but then that would make me question other things like, okay, well, what else wouldn't you respect my wishes on? So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So my one thing has to do with hair. So like if
Mm.
I, had a daughter and decided, okay, we're not doing the whole relaxer thing, and I show up and you have relaxed my daughter's hair, this lady
That's a fight.
this lady took it easy on them because I I don't even want to think about what I would do, but I know that it wouldn't be just, oh well, you can't see them until XYZ time. No, it will probably be hell to pay if you go and do something irreversible. Well, okay,
Mhm.
it won't be reversible for a very
Yeah.
long time. What that girl said, for a long periodically time. So I would be livid. So as you were reading, I was like, oh yeah, because the ear piercing thing for me isn't that big of a deal. I try to equate it to something that would be a big deal. Like,
Mm.
okay, I see where she's going. Like she feels about this the way that I would probably feel about
Mhm.
the relaxer thing,
Yeah, because she said her culture, it's not common to
at all.
pierce the girl's ears, and yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a long list of things. I don't even wanna think about it if I or think about being in that position. Like,
Hmm.
however I drop my child off is how I need to pick them up.
Period. Period.
Uh,
Um,
well,
oh
y'all
Lord.
let us know. Y'all let us know what y'all think. I don't think she overreacted, and you and the husband got to be here because
Because she
this
said
could
he's like,
get.
it's not a big deal. No, I need you to see it as a big deal because it is. Yeah.
Mhm. All right.
All right. So the next one says, am I the a-hole for choosing my wife instead of my niece? I have a niece. I'm her godfather. She's the only kid in the family for now, so she's quite spoiled. Her birthday party was last Saturday. My sister said that my niece wanted a Disney themed party, Encanto, great theme. So my sister asked me to dress up as one of the characters. This is something that we usually do for my niece since she likes it and it's fun. I said yes like 3 weeks ago, so please have that in mind. My wife is pregnant. She's 9 weeks along, but she's already having a lot of symptoms and she doesn't feel great. She has a lot of nausea, some smells get her very sick, and she's just feeling tired or moody since she's not getting a lot of sleep either. The day before the party, she had been sick most of the night, so we didn't sleep well. The party was at 2 p.m. My wife actually told me to go to the party because she could stay alone. She was tired and feeling quite needy, but she was mostly fine. No nausea at the moment. She was able to eat something and was a bit more comfortable. But I felt terrible leaving her alone. So I decided to stay with her so we could cuddle and rest. That sounds so cute. I texted my sister to let her know that I'm not coming to the party at around 1:45 or so. Now I know my sister. I know that she and our family would have called me and sent me texts to try to get me to go. So my wife and I turned our phones off so we could have a peaceful nap. I love this guy. He's like
You
the
already know the shit is that they're up.
he said, y'all not about to be interrupted our nap. Okay. Just as I thought, hours later, when I turned on my phone again, I had tons of calls and missed texts. I read the text, and it seems like at some point my niece made a big tantrum because I wasn't there, because I promised her to go as one of the characters of the movie and play with her slash the kids. She refused to do anything and listen to her parents, so long story short, they had to end the party early. My whole family is absolutely blaming me for ruining the party. My sister said I'm an a hole because I promised her daughter to be there, dressed up, and then didn't show up. I remind her that I said yes 3 weeks ago, so a lot of stuff can change in those 3 weeks. I told them what my wife was going through and why I wanted to stay with her. They called me off and said that she, my wife, is somehow trying to get me away from them. They said that she's an adult and doesn't need to be pampered all the time. She could be a couple of hours alone. I told them off for acting and talking like that about her and said that I can do whatever I want with my time. And I told my sister that if she would have raised her daughter better, then she wouldn't have made that scene. We had a big argument, which ended in insults. Now almost everyone is on their side and not mine. Am I really wrong here? I feel like they're not trying to understand the reason why I didn't go to the party. Like I'd rather have my wife feel great and go to the birthday party than this. They say that I'm acting selfish, but to me, they're the selfish ones. Please give your opinions and I'll answer any questions if there's any. Okay, I didn't have to read that last part.
He's trying to be courteous,
Right.
because he got a feeling he about to get ate up. Okay.
Oh,
So are you the a-hole? Partly. Partly. And I'm gonna say why.
please.
So yeah, you're not fully, but I think you are partly. I think I understand that you know your family and that they would have hassled you, giving you a hard time, like, oh, why aren't you coming? And I understand you not wanting to do the whole song and dance of explaining the situation. I will say though, telling them 15 minutes before the party starts and maybe not saying, hey, put little Sarah on the phone so I could speak to her to explain the situation up front, I think was just short-sighted.
Mm,
Um, the adults maybe I could understand you be like, oh, I'm not gonna be arguing and explaining myself, but if she's expecting you to show up there in character, you could have at least spoken to her, I think, so that at least she would know going into the party,
Hmm.
or at least ask your sister, hey, do you want her to know beforehand? I agree with you not having to explain yourself. Um, but I do think you should have communicated a bit more upfront.
Yeah, I think.
Also, I think it was short-sighted and not thinking that they would blame your wife.
Thank you. That's the thing.
Because
Like,
that's in my mind,
yeah.
I would have, if I were her, I'd be like, hey, I don't feel well, but I told him he could go.
Not
I don't
throwing
want
him, not throw
I
him
don't
under
want
the
no beef.
bus.
I don't want no beef. I told him he's able to go. He's more than willing to go, even if it's just to pop in for an hour, maybe not the whole party.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a bit short sighted. I think this couple is 25.
Yeah. So he's 26, she's 25.
So yeah, that was short sighted because you should have known that even though it's not right, clearly she's pregnant, things are out of her control. They were going to be like, oh, she's being dramatic and forced him to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Do I think there was one thing he could have handled better? Yes, but I don't think he's the a-hole. I think if this is their first pregnancy, he's probably very new. And so
Hmm.
and being like, oh, we decided to cuddle and rest. I think that's cool. I wish he would have said something the morning of, you know, the morning of or the night before, because
If
she
she
was
had been sick,
the day before. Yeah. So at that point, I would have been like, hey, y'all, she's not feeling well. This is happening. I probably won't make it to the party. And talk to little Sarah. If
mhm,
that's what we're naming her. So talk to little Sarah and just let her know, hey, I'll come over when she's feeling better and bring you a big gift or something.
mhm.
Kids sometimes are simple. So yeah, 15 minutes is just not enough time, but I get it.
And also in the later half of the post, you end up getting into it with your sister, and then you tell her like, "Oh, you should have raised your daughter better."
He been waiting to say that.
Why is the daughter catching strays? Your niece, you're her godfather. So if anything, she could say, okay, well, if you had given me better notice, this could have been a teachable moment
Mm.
up front for her to understand like plans change. Disappointment is a part of life. She's what, 6 years old. So she's at that stage where she can start to understand like, okay, things don't always go as planned. But
Yes.
yeah, this is also why I think you're partly the a-hole, because what the little girl had to do with it.
And not only did she catch strays at the end, he started out by saying like, "Oh, she's spoiled." So it just feels like that plays a role into the decision he made. And I don't know if it did
Mm.
for real, but the fact that he mentioned it at the beginning and at the end, it seemed a little bit like, "Oh, she's spoiled anyway, she'll be fine." So yeah, I
And
was
you're supposed to show up in character. So that's another thing. This is just not a regular
not
birthday
you.
party.
Yeah.
Like this is a performance you're supposed to be a part of. And it's obvious that you'd be missing. Now, I'm not going to get into if the little girl overreacted and if that was whatever, because I don't, to me,
Because
the
it's
letter
her
isn't
child
about,
too.
yeah, it's not about that, but you could have communicated better. I feel for your wife because I think you're naive in how you handled this. And
Mhm.
now she may be on the receiving end of unnecessary bad treatment and attitude. And it sounds like her encouraging you, like, no, still go, no, still go. She may have already been thinking, like, the perception of this
Yeah.
doesn't look the best.
I would like to know if he was the only person dressing up. I don't know if that's a question that he answered, but because if he would have said the night before, the morning of, hey, I can't dress up as such and such, then perhaps someone else could have done it, like the father. Was everybody dressing up as a different character so the father couldn't do that? Like, I have some follow-up questions, but I think he could have handled it much better. And I think he got some I was gonna say I think he got something against the niece, but you know, I think that plays a role in why he did what he did.
And I'll
Um,
add to, I think for the sister, I think she's has a part of this as well, in that because of how she probably usually responds to disappointing news, that's why he waited until the umpteenth hour to tell
mm,
her,
that's fair.
because he already knew, like, oh, she's not going to take this well. Oh, they don't respect boundaries. It's going to be a whole thing. And he
Right.
just wanted a few hours of peace. So I don't know. I think all of y'all could be moving better.
I just love how he prioritized it. He said, I knew what she was going to do. So we both turned our phones off. You're not about to interrupt our nap. I love that. That is, that is it. When it's time for a nap, I am sorry, but
Mm.
y'all cannot be be disturbing my peace at all. Okay. Well, you guys let us know down below what you thought. I didn't expect you to say that he was partly the a-hole. That surprised me. So I look forward to seeing what the comments will have to say. And meet us down there. If you haven't liked the video, please go ahead and do that. If you haven't subscribed, please
I
go
know.
ahead and subscribe. And we will see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye.